Allegra, hey, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thanks.
Good.
So I'm so excited about this new season of Upload because I enjoyed the last season so much, and you'd left on such a cliffhanger before. We didn't even know if you were alive or dead. We didn't know if you
Yeah.
had been uploaded, what the story was. Um, and it felt like there was a lot more to be told. So, when
Yeah.
I'd received the episodes, I dove right into them just to get a sense of the show. And it's funny because it feels so similar. And I loved it so much in season one, but season two feels similar in tone, similar in nature, but a little different as well too. So what was it like
Mhm.
to come back and to do this season?
Well, it was a joy to return to it, not just because it's a fun pinata of a show to to dive back into, but because I think we'd all really been hungry to work, and we all genuinely missed each other just from a personnel standpoint. And I think there was this across the board curiosity of, okay, now that we have a better sense of who these characters are and what they're about, where are we going to go? Because there's no limit, it feels like, in the world of Upload. We have so much more, no pun intended, we have so much more horizon than a show that doesn't take place in the future, because if we need to solve a technological issue, we can make something. We can invent something, or we could justify it, right? People can be alive and dead at the same time. So yeah, it was a total joy to return to it, and a relief, more than anything.
Mm-hmm. So I didn't see the cat this season. You didn't have that cat again.
No. Good catch. No cat. Cat, if you remember, was stolen from me.
No, I
Cat
didn't
was,
remember
maybe
that.
maybe they actually cut this part, but there's a moment where in season one where Ingrid's in the hug suit in the tub
Mm-hmm.
and she's distracted, and I think she had brought, oh, they did cut this. Yeah, she had asked somebody to do a delivery, and they're like looking around and they take her cat. Was that season one or season two? Either way it was cut, but she doesn't tip them and they take the cat as a tip.
But I was going to say, and you had talked about that the last time, the hug suit, that's much more present. The bathtub, you get to do those scenes, but also as the show demands, you're more integrated this season.
Yeah.
We finally
Yeah.
kind of get a sense that Ingrid is uploaded or has arrived. What
Yes.
did that feel like for you? And, did that kind of play out? Certainly the dinner party seems to be kind
Yes.
of a moment in which it comes together, but how did it feel this year to feel like you were more present, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it was a really interesting experience because it meant that I got to work with my friends more and not feel quite as isolated as I did in season one. Not that that was a bad thing, but that it was just kind of like, oh, now I can play in the same sandbox with all the people that I've been missing and jealous of. And she still doesn't fit in. So there's still this simultaneous experience that I had where she's an outsider, and there is a tension around the environments that she's in, and even when she tries hard to integrate herself, that actually hurts her, and people pick up on the fact that she's trying too hard. There's the way that she interacts with Nathan's mom, the way that she interacts with Luke, the way that she's trying to get more time with Nathan, but he keeps finding excuses to not spend time with her. So she thinks that she's going to get what she wants. And of course, she's just as isolated as ever, even when she's in Lakeview.
So one of the things I don't get to find out about in advance when I'm watching, but I noticed is you brought on some really interesting directors this year, to have Dee Reese do the first episode, a couple, and Athena
Yeah.
Rachel Singari. And I'm wondering sort of, she's done more sort of some of the body horror kind of movies. And then, Ingrid gets to have an extremely long tongue this season. And that felt like kind of like a body horror moment.
Yeah, I always forget about that. I've watched it now. I've seen the season, and every time that tongue comes up, I'm like, oh, I always forget. Yeah, that was so cool. It's really exciting how, especially on television, you get to meet new directors, and every new block we get this kind of jolt of freshness and perspective, and seeing how they all approach it differently is so cool. And it's just like, all right, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Athena in particular, what I loved about how she sort of approached it was she really wanted to talk to us at length about our characters, and really piece apart, like, do you really, I remember she asked me, she's like, do you really love Nathan? Does Ingrid really love Nathan? Really? And we had to have a really in-depth conversation about it. And it was good because the kinds of questions she was genuinely asking me, some of them I had asked myself, but maybe not others. And particularly for the episode that she was directing, with all of the babies as they grow up, finding the truth in Ingrid is so core. And so the fact that she was able to remind me, like, why are you doing this? Why is she doing this? You're doing this out of love. You're doing this out of love. You're doing this out of love. Is very grounding, and it brings you back in those really crazy situations to exactly why someone would do something like this and put themselves through it.
So what was that episode like? What was it like to have the babies?
That was a wild week. I remember there was one day where in the morning I was working with a dog, and then in the afternoon I was working with an animatronic baby, and then in the evening I was working with a 3-year-old, and they all had their pros and cons. And it's really fascinating how on a day on set like that, it feeds you in the way that it would feed Ingrid. I didn't have to pretend that I was exhausted. There was no acting required there, in a good way. It wasn't taxing. It requires a lot of focus and flexibility, I'll say. And I don't know if anybody would describe Ingrid as being particularly flexible. So when that is required of her, it really pushes her. And so the exhaustion is not faked. It's not a facade.
It was interesting to see the development with Owen, with AI guy, not only playing variations of your baby, but also that, already a story editor wrote the finale, and a really kind of touching finale as well too, and surprising in how much of a real jolt it was, yes. On a show that's not always grounded in reality or, in the future reality, it really kind of hit home. So what was that like for you?
I'm so glad you said that, because I completely agree. I think the finale episode, again, when we all read it as episode 7, we were all taken aback and struck by the humanity of it and some of the heartbreak of the scenes, and just endlessly proud of Owen. It's so funny. I've got this relationship with him now where I feel like his older sister or his babysitter or his mom. And it's because we've had this journey together on this season where Ingrid goes face to face with AI guy in all kinds of ways, and they have to confront each other and deal with each other. And then in some cases, they need each other and benefit from the other. So yeah, Owen's journey as AI guy, I'm proud of. And then I'm also just so proud of his ability as a writer. And I don't even know if it's my place to be proud of him, but because of the position I've been put in as Ingrid, I've got this maternal pride. So silly.
Yeah, well, you raised him really well.
Raised him in a day. I raised him in a day.
What a day.
Yeah. What a day it was. And boy, did he develop.
So I'm really curious, because you asked, or you were just discussing about asking the questions and sitting down and asking yourself, does Ingrid really love Nathan? I noticed you didn't actually answer it. maybe you hold that within yourself. Maybe only you know the answer to it. But I felt very different about Ingrid, about you. I felt, I felt that the empathy, the pathos that maybe, I don't know if I hadn't felt it before. In season 1, I'm still trying to figure out, do I like you? Do I not like you? Do I trust her? And I think in season 2, it's almost beyond that. Like, even if I don't, even if that doesn't even really matter anymore. But I was feeling real like empathy for you. And the hug suit as well too. You had a lot of moments that were, it's extremely funny show, but then it's very serious and very poignant. So,
I completely agree.
Did you feel more comfortable in her skin? Did that session maybe answer the questions for you? What was the development like?
Yeah, well, I think I'm totally happy to share, and I feel like anybody would probably assume that I really do believe Ingrid loves Nathan, really. I think her definition of love is odd and unusual, but I think it's the only definition that she has right now. And I'm curious to see how her definition of love grows and evolves. Whether or not that love is reciprocated, I'm not sure, but you can see that in Nathan, there is some empathy for her as well. He recognizes and has to deal with the fact that this is someone that he was really close to and felt comfortable with, and still said yes to. We have to like really sit with that. So yes, I think, say your question one more time, that I do think that she loves him, but there was so much more to it, and I don't want to miss it.
Yeah. Did you feel like not only, does she love, do you feel more comfortable within the character? Did those sessions sort of reveal to you who Ingrid is, and, allow a viewer to feel that sense of empathy for you?
Yeah. Well, I think in season 2, what was helpful is getting a better understanding of what her mission was and what she's motivated by. And I think there's some purposeful mystery in season 1, which is why there is this sort of like distancing distrust of, I don't know about her, but we're really not supposed to, because I think in some cases, many people thought that maybe she was responsible for Nathan's murder, that she was the capital V villain, And so yes, in season 2, I felt so much more comfortable just kind of burrowing in and mucking around and exploring why did she get this way? How did her family impact the way that she feels about herself and about what she thinks the world owes her? And she still has this coherent through line of being able to process how she's different from her family. And I think we see that more and more in this season in a way that I would hope that anybody that is able to have the self-awareness to go, I'm like this because of this, and I can actually do something about it. I don't have to keep rehashing history. I could change my own trajectory. I'm not fated to act like them. And that made me feel a lot more comfortable in her, playing her, being her, because that's just really human. And I think a lot of people have that same experience.
Did you have a moment where, the show got renewed right away for season 1? I haven't had a chance to talk with you when the show has actually been out. Have you had a favorite? Have you had reactions? Have you had a favorite fan encounter, a positive reaction to the show? What's the feedback like for you?
I think the big takeaway that I've had in lieu of, the premiere of season 1 was that I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that everybody in the world was watching it. Not everybody, but the world was watching it at the same time. So I'm still struck by and moved by people from Brazil, from India, from Japan, from Germany, from New Zealand that are like, I love this show and I really connect with it. And it didn't compute to me that would happen. And it makes me just wonder, what are the themes that are truly universal and that resonate beyond our Western culture and beyond even our, like, you know, North American culture? Like, why is this hitting a note for so many people? And it's not just timing, it has to be thematic, is my guess. So that's been really amazing, and exciting to see people from other countries similarly excited about season 2.
So I have to ask, what's hit the note for you? What have been some of the shows, books, plays, anything that you've experienced that you feel like captures this particular time and this particular moment?
Ooh, shows, books, plays.
Whatever else, yeah.
Whatever else. Wow, that's a great question. I loved Succession. I loved the journey that those characters have been on, and I do think that there is this collective, like, all right, what is accountability? What is responsibility? Who is let off and why? Who's in power and why? I think we are generationally thinking about that and processing it a bit more. So that struck a chord. What else? You know, it's been a long time since I've seen a play, because I think I had bought tickets to go see something downtown, and it got canceled because of the surge over the holidays. And so I'm still waiting for the new work to come out that I'm really excited by. This is not something that anybody will have necessarily seen except maybe 20 people in San Francisco, but my sister, actually, she's in graduate school right now, and she just did a solo show, which is basically like a thesis project to get her her master's degree in acting. She went to the same program that I went to, and she completed like a 45-minute, 50-minute filmed, I would call it kind of a collage, and it's a discussion all about it's about body image, it's about food, it's about emptiness, and it's about kind of modern day femininity and dysmorphia and everything that kind of goes into that. And I got to watch that via Zoom just last week, her presentation, and it was so moving. And I feel like it would be moving even if I didn't know her. I'm like, loved her as my sister. But what I'll say about it is, the reason I thought it was so cool is that here she was at a program for acting on the stage. It's known for being, American Conservatory Theater is just that. It's a conservatory for theater. And because they were sort of stripped of the theater as space, they all had to learn as a class how to put together a production like a film. And her editing, her voiceover work in it, the music that she wrote for it, the eye line, her ability to just sit and be on camera, and then the interplay between her and her surroundings in San Francisco. And a lot of it is just about presence. I don't know, it was very impressive and it really moved me. And that is the honest answer, but I know that no one will have seen it. So I'm not sure if you want to include that.
It's good though. Shout out to your sister, Banjo?
Yeah, well, Banjo was her nickname for years. And now it's Evangeline. That's her given name, Evangeline Edwards. And the graduating class of 2022.
I want to ask you one more thing. Just what do you think, because we've talked about the show, but what do you think is something for people to look out for, to be excited for when, Upload season 2 is put out there into the world?
Like in the show?
Sure, yeah. What do you think are some of those moments in the show that are going to be really exciting?
Yeah. I'm really excited to see what people think of that baby episode, just watching Owen grow up in fast forward. I'm excited about that. I'm I think it's a really hysterical but scary idea that maybe Lakeview would be able to listen in on people's dreams and then sell them as a Hollywood intellectual property to turn into films. That is dark and weird. And it's one of those that strikes me as being, okay, yeah, how are we going to talk about intellectual property in 15 years when we already know that there's technology that can type up what someone is thinking, right? If we already know that we can do that, how far can we push that? What is intellectual property? So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, like, I mean, even the rise of like an NFT in the time, it's like, what is going to be the truth to hold on to?
Yeah,
I think your show is starting to become predictive more than anything else.
Oh,
starting to tell the future.
Absolutely insane. I mean, the fact that when they were writing this, you know, they hadn't done the first initial like test run of the Hyperloop, and already since that writer's room, you know, however long ago that was that they put that in the script, Hyperloop has already had its first go around active with passengers. I mean, there's things like that all the time that just are like, oh, here we go. We better turn it around faster if we want to be this predictive, because there needs to be less time in order to like forecast better.
Yeah, all we've had is time, and now, you know, the time is moving differently. Time is out of joint, right? But
absolutely.
I really appreciated hearing from you, speaking with you, and whatever is to come for you. I'm so excited about that, and wish you the best into the future. Thank you so much, Allegra.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.